The first thing I noticed wasn't the suitcases lined up on my driveway like soldiers awaiting deployment. It wasn't even the changed locks that made my house key as useful as a chocolate teapot. No, the first thing that caught my attention was Leora's Facebook post glowing on my phone screen. Sometimes you have to walk away from toxic men. Posted 3 minutes ago. Already 12 likes. I stood there in my wrinkled editor's shirt, laptop bag slung over my shoulder, staring at those matching designer suitcases that cost more than my monthly salary at the Neversink Herald. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd packed her life into luggage that screamed, "I'm too good for this place," while posting about walking away from toxicity. "Well, I'll be," I muttered, pulling out my phone. My thumb hovered over the like button for exactly 2 seconds before I tapped it. Then I typed, "I agree." The comment appeared instantly. Perfect. I walked around those suitcases like they were evidence at a crime scene, taking photos from every angle. The neighbors were already peeking through their curtains. Mrs. Miriam Chen from next door had her nose practically pressed against her kitchen window. Good. Witnesses were exactly what I needed. The final photo was a masterpiece. All 4 suitcases arranged in a neat row, my shadow falling across them like a sundial marking the end of our marriage. I posted it with the caption, "Start walking." My phone buzzed immediately. Leora calling. I let it ring. Inside my head, that familiar voice started up. The one that had gotten me through 12 years of small-town journalism and 6 years of marriage to a woman who thought compromise was a dirty word. It was the voice that whispered sarcastic observations during town council meetings and helped me craft headlines that made people actually read our little paper. "She expects you to grovel," the voice said. "She expects tears, begging, maybe some grand romantic gesture involving flowers and apologies." The phone stopped ringing, then started again. Let her expect. I walked to my car, tossed my laptop bag in the passenger seat, and drove to Ricky's bar. The rusty anchor wasn't much to look at. Dim lighting, scarred wooden tables, and a jukebox that had been playing the same 40 songs since 1987. But it was honest about what it was, which made it better company than most people I knew. "You look like someone who just discovered his wife's been redecorating," Ricky said, not looking up from the glass he was polishing. Ricky Martinez had been my best friend since college, and bartending had given him an almost supernatural ability to read people's moods. She locked me out. I slid onto my usual stool. Posted about it on Facebook first, naturally. Naturally. Ricky set down a beer without being asked. "Let me guess. You're the villain in her story?" "Toxic, apparently." I took a long sip. She's walking away from my toxic masculinity, or whatever buzzword she picked up from her yoga instructor. The same yoga instructor who looks like he bench presses small cars? That would be Evan Greer. I pulled out my phone and showed Ricky the Facebook post. 23 likes now. Her fan club is growing. Ricky scrolled through the comments. "You deserve so much better, girl. Stay strong, queen. Some men never grow up." He handed the phone back. Sounds like she's got her narrative locked down. She always did love a good story. I stared at my reflection in the bar mirror. At 38, I looked exactly like what I was. A small-town newspaper editor who'd spent too many late nights chasing stories that mattered to maybe 3,000 people. My brown hair needed cutting, my shirt needed ironing, and my face needed about 8 more hours of sleep per night. But my eyes were sharp. They'd always been sharp. "So what's the plan?" Ricky asked. "Grovel? Fight for her? Write a strongly worded editorial about the sanctity of marriage?" Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I laughed, and it felt good. None of the above. My phone buzzed with a text from Leora. "We need to talk." "This is ridiculous." I showed Ricky the message. "She's cracking already," he observed. "She expected me to come home, find the suitcases, and immediately start the apology tour." I typed back, "You said you were walking away. Don't let me stop you." The response came in seconds. "Don't be childish, Brent," says the woman who changed the locks instead of having an adult conversation. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. "You know what the funny thing is?" I said, finishing my beer. "She thinks she's the first woman in history to have an affair with her fitness trainer." Ricky raised an eyebrow. "You know about that?" "I'm a journalist, Ricky. I notice things, like how she started going to the gym at weird hours, how she bought new underwear but I never saw it, how she started talking about Evan's philosophy on life and wellness and finding your authentic self. And you didn't say anything?" I was curious to see how far she'd take it. I stood up, leaving a 20 on the bar. Turns out the answer is all the way to social media martyrdom. "Where are you going?" Home. I have some redecorating to do. The drive back to Maple Street gave me time to think. Leora had always been beautiful in that Instagram-ready way that made other women simultaneously envious and insecure. She'd built a small following as a fitness influencer, posting workout videos and motivational quotes that got shared by women who wanted to believe that the right yoga pose could fix their marriages. The irony was delicious. When I pulled into my driveway, the suitcases were gone. But Leora's car wasn't there either, which meant she'd needed help moving them. Evan, probably, playing the knight in shining armor role he'd been rehearsing for months. I used my garage door opener, apparently she hadn't thought to disable that, and walked through the house. It felt different already, like a stage set after the actors had gone home. Her coffee mug was still in the sink, her yoga mat was still rolled up in the corner of the living room, her laptop was still on the kitchen counter. Her laptop. Now that's interesting, the voice in my head said. I opened it, still logged into everything. Facebook, Instagram, email, even her Google Drive. Leora had always been careless with technology, treating passwords like suggestions rather than security measures. The Facebook messages were right there in the sidebar. A conversation with someone named Evan G. that went back 3 months. I started reading. 10 minutes later, I was taking screenshots. 20 minutes later, I had a folder on my desktop labeled Evidence, with enough material to write a very different story than the one Leora was telling her followers. The messages weren't just about meeting up for coffee or discussing workout routines. They were detailed, intimate, and included plans. Plans for after Leora got rid of the extra weight, plans for trips they'd take together, plans for the life they'd build once she was free. But the most interesting part wasn't the affair itself. It was how they talked about me. Brent's so clueless, she'd written. He has no idea what's coming. And Evan's response? Men like him never do. They think being nice is enough. Men like him. I saved everything to a secure cloud drive, then closed the laptop and left it exactly where I'd found it. My phone buzzed. Another text from Leora. I'm staying at Jade's tonight. We'll talk tomorrow when you've calmed down. Jade Hoffman was Leora's workout partner and closest friend, a woman who collected drama like some people collected stamps. If Leora was staying there, it meant the whole story was already being dissected, analyzed, and shared with their entire social circle. Perfect. I texted back, take your time. I'm not going anywhere. Then I opened my laptop and started writing. Not an editorial this time, but a different kind of story. The kind that required careful planning, meticulous research, and perfect timing. The kind of story that would make people remember why they subscribed to the Neversink Herald in the first place. Outside, Mrs. Chen was watering her garden with suspicious dedication, glancing toward my house every few seconds. I waved at her through the kitchen window, and she nearly dropped her watering can. Tomorrow, I decided, was going to be very interesting. The Neversink Herald occupied a narrow building on Main Street between Murphy's Hardware and a coffee shop that changed owners every 18 months. Our office hadn't been updated since the Clinton administration, which meant I worked on a desk that wobbled and used a computer that wheezed like an old dog climbing stairs. But it had internet, and that was all I needed. I arrived at 7 a.m., 2 hours before anyone else would show up. The building was quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant rumble of delivery trucks making their morning rounds. I made coffee in the break room, the kind of industrial-strength brew that could wake the unconscious, and settled in at my desk with Leora's laptop. The Facebook messages between her and Evan were just the beginning. Her Google Drive was a treasure trove of screenshots, photos, and documents that painted a very different picture than the one she'd presented to the world. There were screenshots of our text conversations where she deliberately baited me into arguments, then cropped out her provocative messages to share with her friends. Photos of our house that she'd taken from unflattering angles, with captions about living in this dump. Even a draft blog post titled Escaping Emotional Manipulation that read like a how-to guide for rewriting history. But the most revealing discovery was a group chat called Girls' Night that included Jade, Corey Walsh, and 3 other women from their fitness circle. I started reading from the beginning. Leora. Brent's been so weird lately, like controlling and possessive. Jade. Girl, that's not normal. You deserve better. Corey. Have you thought about couples therapy? Leora. He'd never go. He thinks he's always right because he's a journalist. She'd actually used air quotes in text form. This conversation was from 2 months ago, right around the time her messages with Evan had started getting serious. Leora. Sometimes I think about what life would be like without him. Jade. You're still young. You could start over. Corey. With someone who actually appreciates you. The messages continued, each one building the narrative of me as the neglectful husband and her as the trapped wife. But reading them in sequence, I could see the pattern. Every complaint was vague, every example was either exaggerated or completely fabricated, and her friends ate it up. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Otis Brennan. "Brent, you son of a gun." Otis's gravelly voice filled the receiver. "Ricky told me you might need some professional assistance." Otis had been my college roommate before he dropped out to become a private investigator. He specialized in insurance fraud and cheating spouses, which made him exactly the right person for this conversation. "I need some background research," I said. "Completely legal, completely ethical. Those are my favorite kinds. What's the target?" "Evan Greer. He's a real estate developer here in town. I want to know everything. Business dealings, personal history, any skeletons rattling around in his closet." "This wouldn't have anything to do with your wife's sudden interest in physical fitness, would it?" "What gave it away?" "Ricky mentioned she's been spending a lot of time at the gym, and you sound like a man with a plan." I told him about the suitcases, the Facebook post, and the evidence I'd found on Leora's laptop. "She left her computer unlocked?" Otis whistled. "Amateur hour. What else you got?" "Group chat messages, photos, a whole digital paper trail of her building a case against me while planning her exit strategy." "And you want me to dig up dirt on the boyfriend?" "I want you to find the truth. If he's clean, then he's clean. But if he's got a pattern..." "Oh, he's got a pattern." Otis chuckled. "Trust me, guys like this always have a pattern. Give me 48 hours. After hanging up, I spent the next hour reading through more of Leora's messages. The group chat had evolved from general complaints about me to specific plans for her new life. There were discussions about apartments she could afford, jobs she might apply for, and how to handle the divorce proceedings. But the most interesting thread was about publicity. "Leora, I'm thinking about being more open on social media, like really honest about what I've been going through." "Jade, you should. People need to hear your story." "Corey, you could help other women in similar situations." "Leora, maybe start a blog. Finding myself after emotional abuse or something like that." Emotional abuse. That was a new one. I screen capped everything, organized it into folders, and backed it up to 3 different cloud services. Then I returned Leora's laptop to its exact position on the kitchen counter and went back to the office. By 9 a.m., my colleagues had started trickling in. The Herald employed exactly 4 people full-time. Me, Janet, our photographer and layout designer, Pete, sports and local events, and Mrs. Rodriguez, classified ads and subscriptions. We weren't exactly a media empire, but we covered the news that mattered to Neversink residents. "You look like you haven't slept," Janet observed, setting her coffee mug on her desk. "Busy night?" I said. "Research." "Anything interesting?" "You could say that." My phone buzzed with a text from Leora. "Can you meet me for lunch? Neutral ground. We need to discuss logistics." I showed the message to Janet. "Logistics," she read aloud. "That's romantic." "She means the divorce," I said. "How to divide assets, who keeps what, how to spin the story so she comes out looking like the victim." "And you're going to meet her?" "Absolutely." I typed back, "Murphy's Diner, noon." "See you there," came the reply. "You have a plan," Janet said. It wasn't a question. "I have several plans. The question is which one she's going to force me to use." Murphy's Diner sat at the corner of Main and Elm, a chrome and vinyl throwback that served coffee strong enough to dissolve spoons and hamburgers that could feed a small family. It was as neutral as Switzerland and twice as greasy. Leora was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her phone face down on the table. She'd dressed carefully, not too casual, not too formal, just the right amount of woman going through a difficult time to generate sympathy from anyone who might be watching. And people were definitely watching. Murphy's was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, and the recent drama on Facebook had made us the most interesting show in town. "You look good," she said as I slid into the booth across from her. "Thanks. You look like you're about to ask me for something?" She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Can't we just have a civil conversation?" "We can try, but based on your recent social media activity, I'm not sure civility is your strong suit." Her smile flickered. "That post wasn't about you specifically." "Right. It was about all the other toxic men you've been married to." The waitress appeared. Dolores, who'd been working at Murphy's since before I was born. "What can I get you, folks?" "Coffee," I said. "Black?" "Same," Leora said. "And maybe some privacy?" Dolores gave her a look that could have frozen lava. "This is a diner, honey, not a confessional." After she left, Leora leaned forward. "Look, I know you're hurt." "Am I?" "And I know this is difficult." but we're adults. We can handle this maturely. Maturely, I repeated, like packing your bags and changing the locks without a conversation? I tried to talk to you. You're never here, and when you are, you're distracted, always working on some story that's going to save the world. It's called having a job, Leora. Some of us can't make a living posting workout videos. Her cheeks flushed. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You dismiss everything I do. I dismiss things that aren't real, like this victim narrative you're constructing. She stared at me for a long moment. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. I pulled out my phone and opened Facebook. 27 likes now on your Toxic Men post. Lots of supportive comments from your friends. Very inspiring. People are just being nice. People are being manipulated. But that's okay. You're good at it. Dolores returned with coffee and the kind of silence that suggested she'd been listening from the kitchen. I want to make this easy, Leora said after Dolores left. I don't want to fight. What do you want? A clean break, we divide everything fairly, file the paperwork, and move on with our lives. Define fairly. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I made a list. I unfolded it and read. According to Leora's calculations, fair meant she got the house, the newer car, half my retirement account, and monthly support payments for 2 years while she established herself professionally. This is generous, I said. I think so. I was being sarcastic. Her jaw tightened. Brent, I'm trying to be reasonable here. No, you're trying to get me to agree to something before I have time to think about it. But here's the thing, Leora. I'm a journalist. Thinking is literally what I do for a living. What's that supposed to mean? I folded the paper and put it in my pocket. It means I'll need some time to consider your proposal. Maybe discuss it with a lawyer. A lawyer? Brent, that's just going to make things complicated and expensive. Things are already complicated. And expensive. I stood up, leaving a $5 bill on the table. Thanks for lunch. I'll be in touch. Wait. She grabbed my wrist. Where are you staying? At home. But the locks? I had them changed back this morning. Turns out when your name's on the deed, locksmiths are very accommodating. I left her sitting in the booth, staring at her untouched coffee and probably wondering when I'd stopped being the pushover she'd married. The answer was simple. About 12 hours ago, when I'd started reading her messages. The beauty of living in a small town is that everyone knows everyone else's business. The curse of living in a small town is that everyone knows everyone else's business. By the time I got back to the Herald office, 3 different people had texted me about my lunch meeting with Leora. Apparently, word had spread that we'd had some kind of heated discussion, and the local gossip network was already spinning theories about what it meant. I loved small towns. How'd it go? Janet asked when I walked in. She offered me a divorce settlement that would leave me living in a cardboard box under the interstate. Generous. I thought so. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. Any interesting calls while I was out? Mrs. Patterson wants to know if we're going to cover the library fundraiser. The mayor's office called about the zoning meeting next week, and someone named Jade called asking if you were okay. Jade Hoffman, Leora's best friend and chief enabler. What did you tell her? That you seemed fine to me, but I'd pass along her concern. I made a mental note to call Jade back. If Leora was using her as a messenger, it meant she was already worried about how this was playing out. My phone rang. Otis. That was fast, I said. Your boy Evan's not exactly a master of discretion, Otis replied. I've got enough material to keep you entertained for hours. Give me the highlights. 3 previous affairs with married clients, all following the same pattern. He targets women who are unhappy in their marriages, offers himself as the solution to their problems, then moves on once the divorce is finalized. How do you know about the previous affairs? Because one of the ex-wives hired me to investigate him 2 years ago. She suspected he was running the same game on someone else, and she wanted evidence for her custody hearing. Did she get it? Oh yeah, photos, financial records, the whole package. Turns out our boy Evan has expensive tastes and a habit of borrowing money from his girlfriends to fund his lifestyle. This was getting better by the minute. What kind of money are we talking about? The ex-wife loaned him $15,000 for what he called a business opportunity. Never saw a penny of it back. And the other women? Similar stories. He's got a talent for making women feel like they're investing in their future together, when really they're just funding his present. I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. Send me everything you've got. Already in your email, but Brent, be careful how you use this. Some of it's pretty sensitive. I'm not planning to ruin anyone's life, Otis. I just want the truth. The truth has a way of ruining lives all by itself. After hanging up, I opened Otis's email and started reading. The documents painted a picture of a man who viewed relationships as business opportunities and women as investors in his personal brand. The pattern was consistent: meet an unhappy wife at the gym, offer fitness training and life coaching, gradually escalate the relationship while encouraging her to leave her husband, then disappear once the divorce was final and the money ran out. Leora wasn't his first victim. She probably wouldn't be his last, but she might be his most expensive mistake. I spent the rest of the afternoon organizing the evidence into a comprehensive file: photos, financial records, court documents from previous divorce proceedings, and testimonials from 2 of Evan's previous targets, who were willing to go on record about their experiences. By 5 o'clock, I had enough material to write a book. Instead, I decided to write a letter. Dear Evan, I hope this finds you well and enjoying your new relationship with my wife. I wanted to reach out because I think there might be some things about Leora that you should know, just as I'm sure there are things about you that she should know. For instance, did you know that she's been documenting our entire marriage for the past 6 months, creating a narrative of emotional abuse and neglect that she plans to use in divorce proceedings? She's quite creative with her storytelling. I have screenshots of her practicing different versions of events with her friends. On the other hand, I wonder if she knows about your previous relationships with married clients, or your tendency to borrow money from girlfriends for business opportunities. I have some fascinating documentation about your financial history that I think she might find educational. I'm not writing this to threaten anyone. I'm writing because I believe in transparency. If you two are going to build a life together, shouldn't it be based on honesty? I'll be in touch soon with some materials that might interest both of you. Best regards, Brent Marrow. I printed the letter, sealed it in an envelope, and drove to Evan's house. He lived in Willowbrook Estates, a gated community on the north side of town where the houses all looked like they'd been designed by the same architect having the same dream about suburban perfection. His address was easy to find. Otis had included a complete dossier with photos, property records, and even his workout schedule. I parked across the street and watched the house for a few minutes. Evan's BMW was in the driveway, along with a car I didn't recognize. Probably Leora's. She must have borrowed it from Jade or bought something new with money I didn't know she had. I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. Evan answered, wearing gym shorts and a tank top that showed off the muscles he'd spent years sculpting. He was handsome in that generic fitness model way that made women forget to ask important questions about character and integrity. "Can I help you?" he said, not recognizing me. "Evan Greer? I'm Brent Marrow, Leora's husband." His face went through several expressions in rapid succession: surprise, guilt, fear, and finally a kind of aggressive defensiveness. "Look, man, I don't want any trouble. Neither do I." I handed him the envelope. "I just wanted to drop this off. Some information I thought you might find interesting." "What kind of information?" "The kind that helps people make informed decisions about their relationships." He looked at the envelope like it might explode. "Is Leora here?" I asked. She's taking a shower." "Perfect. That gives you time to read my letter before you decide what to tell her about my visit." I turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, and Evan, you might want to ask her about the $15,000 she withdrew from our joint savings account last week. I'm curious to know what she told you it was for." His face went pale. "Have a good evening," I said, and walked back to my car. In my rearview mirror, I watched him stand in the doorway for a long time, staring at the envelope in his hands. My phone buzzed with a text from Leora. "Jade said you called the office asking about me. What do you want?" I texted back. "Just checking to make sure you're safe. New relationships can be complicated." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing specific. Just general concern for your well-being." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. I drove home, made myself a sandwich, and settled in to wait for the phone to ring. It took exactly 47 minutes. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Leora's voice was shaking with rage. "Hello to you, too. How was your day?" "You went to Evan's house? Are you insane?" I dropped off some reading material, educational stuff. "Brent, this is harassment. I could call the police." "For delivering mail? I don't think that's actually a crime." "You're trying to sabotage my relationship." "I'm trying to make sure everyone has access to the same information. Transparency, remember? You're always posting about the importance of authentic communication." She was quiet for a moment. "What do you want?" "World peace, a cure for cancer, maybe a pizza that doesn't give me heartburn." "I'm serious." "So am I. The pizza thing is a real problem." "Brent, I could hear voices in the background. Evan, probably, asking what was happening. Here's what I want, Leora. I want you to stop pretending that I'm the villain in your story. I want you to take responsibility for your choices instead of blaming everyone else for your problems. And I want you to understand that actions have consequences. What consequences? The kind that happen when people find out the truth about who you really are. The line went quiet, except for muffled conversation on her end. I'll call you back, she said finally. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. After she hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my front porch. Mrs. Chen was in her garden again, pretending to weed while obviously listening to every word of my phone conversation. Evening, Mrs. Chen, I called out. Oh, hello, Brent. I didn't see you there. Beautiful night for gardening. Yes, well, the weeds don't pull themselves. No, they don't, but sometimes they get pulled anyway once people figure out what they really are. She looked at me curiously, then went back to her weeding with renewed enthusiasm. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Evan. We need to talk. I replied. I'm listening, not over text, in person. When and where? Tomorrow night. The construction site on River Road, 9 p.m. Interesting choice of location. Isolated, private, and dramatic enough to make him feel like he was in control of the situation. See you there, I texted back. Then I went inside, locked the door, and started planning for what promised to be a very educational conversation. The River Road construction site had been abandoned for 3 months, ever since the developer ran out of money and the workers walked off the job. Half-finished houses stood like broken teeth against the evening sky, their empty windows staring out at nothing. It was exactly the kind of place where someone might think they could have a private conversation without interruption. Evan was already there when I arrived, pacing beside his BMW like a caged animal. He'd dressed for intimidation, black jeans, black t-shirt, and the kind of aggressive posture that worked well in gyms but looked ridiculous in real life. You came, he said as I got out of my car. You asked me to. I looked around at the skeletal houses. Atmospheric choice. Very noir. We need to clear the air. I'm listening. He stopped pacing and faced me directly. Leora told me about your marriage, how you treated her. Did she? That's interesting. What did she say? That you were controlling, emotionally manipulative, that you made her feel like she wasn't good enough. I nodded thoughtfully. And you believed her. Why wouldn't I? She's got no reason to lie. Doesn't she? I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd taken from her group chat. Here's a conversation from 2 months ago where she's asking her friends how to make me look bad in divorce proceedings. Want to read it? His confidence flickered. That doesn't prove anything. Here's another one where she's planning to accuse me of emotional abuse, despite admitting to Jade that I've never raised my voice to her in 6 years of marriage. I held out the phone. He didn't take it. She's scared of you, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is she? Because according to these messages, she's been planning this whole thing for months. The affair, the social media campaign, even the specific accusations she was going to make. You're lying. I'm a journalist, Evan. I don't lie. I document. I put the phone away. But let's talk about you for a minute. How's your business doing? The question caught him off guard. Fine. Great. Really? Because I heard you borrowed $15,000 from someone recently. Business loan? His jaw tightened. That's none of your concern. It is when it's my money. Leora withdrew $15,000 from our joint account last week. Interesting coincidence. She invested in my company. It's a legitimate business opportunity. Like the one you offered Jennifer Walsh 2 years ago, or the one you pitched to Sandra Morrison last summer. The color drained from his face. Oh, you didn't think I'd do my homework? I stepped closer. 3 affairs, Evan. 3 married women, all following the same pattern. Meet them at the gym, offer them a better life, take their money, then disappear when the divorce gets messy. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've got court records, financial statements, and sworn affidavits from 2 of your previous victims. He was backing away now, his earlier bravado evaporating. Here's what I find really interesting, I continued. You always target women who are unhappy in their marriages. Women who are looking for someone to blame for their problems. You make them feel special, like you understand them in a way their husbands never could. That's not, but you don't actually care about them, do you? They're just marks, ATM machines with emotional problems. Shut up. The thing is, Evan, I don't think you realize what you were getting into with Leora. She's not like your other girlfriends. She's not some innocent housewife looking for validation. I pulled out another document, printouts from Leora's social media accounts going back 2 years. She's done this before. Different husband, same story. She specializes in finding successful men, marrying them, then destroying their reputations when she gets bored. You're insane. Am I? Look at these posts from her previous marriage. Same language, same accusations, same victim narrative. Her first husband was also emotionally abusive and controlling. Also lost everything in the divorce. Evan stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. The beautiful thing is, you two deserve each other. A con artist and a serial victim, both looking for someone else to pay for your lifestyles. I love her, he said weakly. No, you don't. You love what she represents. Another opportunity to reinvent yourself as someone's savior. But here's the problem. She's playing the same game you are. I walked back toward my car, then turned around. Oh, and Evan, you might want to check your bank account, that $15,000 she borrowed. I'm pretty sure she's already moved it somewhere you can't access it. His phone was out before I finished the sentence. I drove away, leaving him standing in the abandoned construction site, frantically scrolling through his banking app. My phone rang before I made it home. What did you do? Leora's voice was sharp with panic. Had a conversation with your boyfriend. Nice guy, very trusting. Brent, you can't keep interfering in my life. Your life? This is my life too, Leora. My marriage, my money, my reputation you're trying to destroy. I never tried to destroy anything. Really? Then what would you call the social media campaign? The group chat where you practice different versions of our relationship? The accusations of emotional abuse that you admit are fabricated? Silence. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to stop spreading lies about me. You're going to return the $15,000 you stole from our account. And you're going to start telling people the truth about why our marriage ended. And if I don't? Then everyone in town gets to see the evidence I've collected. All of it. The messages, the financial records, the documentation of your previous marriage and how it ended. You wouldn't. Try me. More silence, then muffled conversation. Evan was there, probably demanding to know what was happening. I need time to think, she said finally. You have until tomorrow night. After that, I start sharing information. Brent, please. 6 years, Leora. 6 years I believed you were the woman you pretended to be. 6 years I ignored the red flags because I thought you were just insecure or unhappy or going through a phase. I never pretended. You pretended every single day, but the performance is over now. I hung up and drove the rest of the way home in silence. Mrs. Chen was waiting on her front porch when I pulled into my driveway. Everything all right, Brent? She called out. I heard you've been having some troubles. Nothing I can't handle, Mrs. Chen, but thank you for asking. That wife of yours, she said, shaking her head. I never did trust her. Too much smiling, not enough substance. You're a good judge of character. 73 years of practice. She stood up, preparing to go inside. You know, my late husband used to say that the truth has a way of coming out, no matter how deep you bury it. Smart man. He was, and patient. Sometimes the truth takes its time, but it always shows up eventually. Inside my house, I poured myself another glass of wine and sat down at my laptop. I had a story to write, not for the newspaper, but for myself. A comprehensive account of everything I'd learned about my wife and her boyfriend, documented with evidence and organized chronologically. It was the kind of story that would make people understand exactly what had happened and why. The kind of story that would change everything. The next morning brought 3 missed calls from Leora, 2 voicemails I didn't bother listening to, and a text message that simply said, "We need to talk. Now." I was having coffee on my front porch, enjoying the early morning quiet and watching Mrs. Chen tend to her roses when Leora's car pulled into my driveway. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she was wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Most telling of all, she wasn't carrying her phone, the first time I'd seen her without it in years. "You look terrible," I said as she approached the porch. "Thanks, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Coffee's fresh if you want some." She sat down in the chair across from me, the same chair she'd occupied hundreds of times during our marriage. For a moment, it almost felt normal. "Evan's gone," she said. "Gone where?" "I don't know. He packed his stuff last night and left. Wouldn't answer his phone, wouldn't explain anything. Just said he needed to reassess the situation." I sipped my coffee. "That's unfortunate." "You did this." I had a conversation with him. What he chose to do with that information was his decision. She stared at her hands. "He took the money." "What money?" "The $15,000. It was in a joint account we opened together. He emptied it and closed the account." "Huh, that's interesting." "Interesting? Brent, that was my money." Actually, it was our money from our joint savings account, which you stole. I didn't steal it, I withdrew it. Without telling me, to give to your boyfriend, who has now disappeared with it. She was quiet for a long moment. I messed up. Yes, you did. I mean, really messed up. Everything's falling apart. I set down my coffee cup. What do you want from me, Leora? I want to fix this. Fix what? Your relationship with Evan? Your reputation? Our marriage? All of it. Any of it. Some things can't be fixed. Some things, once you break them, stay broken. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. So that's it? 6 years of marriage and you're just going to throw it away? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that when you decided to have an affair and blame me for all your problems. I know I made mistakes. Mistakes? I laughed. Leora, you orchestrated an entire campaign to destroy my reputation while you ran off with another man. That's not a mistake. That's a plan. I was unhappy. So you decided to make me unhappy too. And when that wasn't enough, you decided to make me look like the villain in your story. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. What do you want me to do? I want you to tell the truth. About what? About everything. About why you really left. About the affair. About the lies you've been spreading. I can't do that. Why not? Because... She struggled for words. Because then everyone will know who I really am. And who are you really, Leora? She didn't answer. Here's what I think, I said. I think you're someone who's never been happy with what she has. Someone who always thinks the grass is greener somewhere else. Someone who blames other people for her own choices. That's not fair, isn't it? How many times in our marriage did you say you wanted to move somewhere else, start over, become someone new? How many times did you decide that the problem wasn't you, it was everything around you? Everyone wants to improve their life. There's a difference between improving your life and destroying other people's lives in the process. My phone buzzed with a text from Ricky. Turn on Facebook. You need to see this. I opened the app and found a post from Jade Hoffman, time-stamped 20 minutes ago. Sometimes people aren't who you think they are. Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. I'm sorry for believing lies and spreading them. Some of us were manipulated, and we should have asked more questions. The post had already gotten 15 likes and several comments asking for clarification. Your friends are starting to figure it out, I said, showing Leora the phone. Her face went pale. Jade's smarter than you gave her credit for. She put the pieces together. What pieces? The timeline, for starters. She realized that your complaints about me started right around the time you met Evan. She also noticed that you've been asking to borrow money from everyone in your social circle. I haven't been. 500 from Corey last month, 300 from Jade the month before. Small amounts, nothing that seemed significant by itself. How do you know that? Because Jade called me yesterday. She wanted to know if you were in some kind of financial trouble, since you'd been asking everyone for loans but claimed you couldn't afford to move out of our house. Leora's phone, which she'd left in her car, started ringing. We could hear it through the open window. That's probably her, I said, wanting to talk. I can't face her. You're going to have to face everyone eventually. What if I just left town? Started over somewhere else? With what money? Evan took your $15,000, remember? She put her head in her hands. I don't know what to do. You could try telling the truth. And then what? Everyone hates me, I lose all my friends, and I end up with nothing? You already have nothing, Leora. The only question is whether you're going to take responsibility for how you got here. Her phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. Answer it, I said. I can't. Then I will. I walked to her car and retrieved her phone. Jade's name was on the screen. I answered. Hi, Jade. Brent, where's Leora? She's here, but she's not ready to talk yet. Is it true? About Evan and the other women? What did you hear? Corey's friend Jennifer used to date him. She said he did the same thing to her, made her think he loved her, took her money, then disappeared when things got complicated. That sounds right. And the messages Leora showed us about you being controlling and manipulative? What do you think? Jade was quiet for a moment. I think I owe you an apology. You were a good friend to her. That's not something to apologize for. But I helped spread lies about you. You believed someone you trusted. That's human nature. What's going to happen now? I looked at Leora, still sitting on my porch with her head in her hands. I don't know, I said. That's up to her. After I hung up, I sat back down across from Leora. Jade knows, she said without looking up. Jade figured it out. There's a difference. She hates me now. She's disappointed. That's not the same thing as hate. What about everyone else? What about them? When they find out the truth, they'll be disappointed too. But some of them will forgive you if you give them a reason to. She finally looked at me. What kind of reason? The truth, Leora. The whole truth, not just the parts that make you look good. And if I do that, if I tell everyone what really happened, then maybe you can start over with a clean slate. Maybe you can become the person you always said you wanted to be. And us? I finished my coffee and set the cup down. There is no us anymore. There hasn't been for a long time. Because of Evan? Because of who you chose to become when you met Evan. Because of the lies and the manipulation and the complete disregard for anyone but yourself. She nodded slowly. I know. Do you? Or are you just saying that because it's what you think I want to hear? I know, she repeated. I know I ruined everything. Then fix what you can fix and accept responsibility for what you can't. Her phone rang again. This time it was Corey. Answer it, I said. I don't know what to say. Start with the truth. It's easier to remember than lies. She answered the phone. Hi, Corey. I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but I could see Leora's face change as she listened. Yes, she said finally. It's true. About Evan, about the money, about everything. More listening. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. More listening, then tears. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry for lying to you. After she hung up, we sat in silence for a few minutes. She's angry, Leora said. She has a right to be. She said Jennifer wants to talk to me about Evan. That might be helpful. Misery loves company. This isn't funny, Brent. No, it's not, but it's also not tragic. You made choices, and now you're dealing with the consequences. That's how life works. What happens now? Now you figure out how to rebuild your life without destroying anyone else's in the process. And you? I go back to being a small-town newspaper editor who minds his own business and tries to tell the truth. Will you ever forgive me? I thought about that for a moment. Maybe, someday, but not today. She nodded and stood up. I should go. Where? I don't know. Jade said I could stay with her for a few days while I figure things out. That's good of her. Yeah, it is. She walked toward her car, then turned back. Brent? Yeah? For what it's worth, I really am sorry. I know you are. Does that matter? It's a start. I watched her drive away, then went inside to call my lawyer. There were papers to file, accounts to separate, and a life to rebuild. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Murphy's Diner, working on a story about the upcoming mayoral election, when Evan Greer walked in. He looked different, thinner, less confident, wearing clothes that had seen better days. His usual swagger had been replaced by the kind of nervous energy that comes from looking over your shoulder too often. He spotted me immediately and hesitated, probably debating whether to leave or pretend he hadn't seen me, but the diner was small, and there was nowhere to hide. Brent, he said, approaching my table. Evan, I heard you were back in town. Just temporarily, tying up some loose ends. How's that working out for you? He slid into the booth across from me without being invited. Look, I know you probably think... I don't think anything about you, Evan. You're not really worth the mental energy. I wanted to explain about the money. What money? The $15,000. I didn't steal it. No? What would you call it? It was a loan. For a business opportunity. I fully intended to pay it back. With what? Your track record suggests you're not great at follow-through. He flinched. You don't understand the pressure I was under. Enlighten me. Jennifer Walsh hired a lawyer. She's trying to get me charged with fraud. Is that what it was? Fraud? It was a misunderstanding. A business deal that went bad. How many business deals have gone bad for you, Evan? He didn't answer. Here's what I think happened, I said, closing my laptop. I think you panicked when you realized I knew about your pattern with married women. I think you decided to cut your losses and run, but you needed money to disappear. That's not... So you took Leora's $15,000 and left town. Probably figured you'd never see her again, so what did it matter? I cared about her. No, you didn't. You cared about what she could do for you. There's a difference. Dolores appeared at our table. You boys want coffee? Just him, Evan said. I'm not staying long. Smart choice, Dolores muttered, walking away. Where is she? Evan asked. Leora, why do you care? I heard she's been having a rough time. She's been having the time she earned. That's cold. That's reality. She made choices, and now she's living with them, just like you are. I never meant for things to get so complicated. Sure you did. Complicated is your business model. Find unhappy women, make them think you're their salvation, take their money, then disappear when the situation gets messy. You make it sound so calculated. Wasn't it? He stared out the window at the street. I did care about her, about all of them, but you cared about their money more. It wasn't about the money. Then why did you always need to borrow it? I had expenses, business investments. I was trying to build something. You were trying to build a lifestyle you couldn't afford on other people's money. Dolores returned with my coffee and a look that suggested Evan should probably leave soon. The thing is, I continued, I don't actually care about your motivation. You're a small-time con artist who got caught. It happens. I'm not a con artist. What would you call someone who systematically targets vulnerable women, manipulates their emotions, and takes their money under false pretenses? I never made false promises. Really? What did you promise Leora? A better life, a fresh start. And Jennifer Walsh? The same thing. And Sandra Morrison. He was quiet. Here's the problem with your business model, Evan. Eventually, the women you target figure out that you're not actually offering them a better life. You're just offering them a different set of problems. What do you want from me? Nothing. I don't want anything from you. Then why are we having this conversation? Because you started it. You came over here, remember? He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. I wanted to give you this. What is it? A check for the $15,000. I looked at the envelope, but didn't take it. Where did you get $15,000? I sold some things. My car, mostly. And you're giving it to me because it was your money originally. Leora took it from your joint account. That's very noble of you. What's the catch? No catch. I just want to make things right. Since when? Since I realized that what I did was wrong. I opened the envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for $15,000 made out to me. This is real? It's real. Why? Because I'm tired of being the person I became. I'm tired of hurting people. I studied his face, looking for signs of deception. He seemed sincere, but then again, sincerity was probably part of his skill set. What are you going to do now? I asked. Leave town. For real this time. Start over somewhere else. And do what? I don't know. Something honest. You know how to do something honest? I'm going to learn. I folded the check and put it in my wallet. This doesn't make us even, Evan. I know. And it doesn't erase what you did to those women. I know that too. But it's a start. He nodded and stood up. For what it's worth, I am sorry. Tell that to Jennifer Walsh and Sandra Morrison. I plan to. Good luck with that. After he left, I sat in the diner for another hour, thinking about second chances and whether people could really change. My phone buzzed with a text from Leora. Can we meet? I have something I want to show you, I replied. When and where? Tonight. The house. 7 p.m. Our house? Your house. I know it's your house now. I finished my coffee and drove back to the Herald office. The check was burning a hole in my wallet, but I wasn't sure what to do with it yet. You look thoughtful, Janet observed when I walked in. Evan Greer just gave me $15,000. The fitness instructor? Why? Guilt, maybe, or fear of prosecution. Are you going to keep it? It's my money. Leora stole it from our joint account and gave it to him. But still what? It feels like taking money from someone who's already been punished enough. I thought about that. Maybe. Or maybe it's just the natural consequence of his actions. What are you going to do with it? I don't know yet. That evening, I drove to what used to be our house and was now just my house. Leora's car was in the driveway, which surprised me. I'd assumed she'd sold it or given it back to the dealer. She was sitting on the front porch holding a manila envelope. You're early, I said, checking my watch. I've been here for an hour. I was nervous. About what? About showing you this. She held up the envelope. What is it? A letter to the Herald for publication. I sat down in the chair across from her. What kind of letter? The kind where I tell the truth about everything. She handed me the envelope. Inside were 3 typed pages, single-spaced. I read the first paragraph. My name is Leora Marrow, and I owe the people of Neversink an apology. 3 weeks ago, I left my husband and made public statements about our marriage that were not true. I accused him of being controlling and emotionally manipulative, when the reality is that I was having an affair and looking for someone to blame for my own choices. I looked up at her. You wrote this? Every word. Why? Because you were right. The truth matters. I continued reading. The letter was comprehensive, detailing her affair with Evan, the lies she'd told her friends, the money she'd stolen, and the deliberate campaign she'd waged to destroy my reputation. It was brutal in its honesty. You don't have to publish this, she said when I finished reading. I know it would hurt the paper's reputation to be associated with this kind of drama. Actually, I think people would respect the paper more for printing it. It takes courage to admit you were wrong. So you'll publish it? If that's what you really want. It is. We sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the sun set behind the trees. Evan came to see me today, I said. He's back in town? Temporarily. He gave me a check for the $15,000. Her eyes widened. He did? Said he wanted to make things right? Do you believe him? I don't know. Does it matter? I guess not. What are you going to do now? I asked. I got a job at the community center teaching fitness classes. It doesn't pay much, but it's honest work. That's good. Jade's letting me stay with her until I can afford my own place. That's good too. I'm also going to therapy to figure out why I keep making the same mistakes. What kind of mistakes? Thinking that running away from problems will solve them, blaming other people for my own choices, looking for someone else to fix my life instead of fixing it myself. Those are good things to work on. Yeah, they are. She stood up to leave, then turned back. Brent? Yeah? Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? I already have. Really, but that doesn't mean I want to be married to you anymore. I know, I wouldn't want to be married to me either. After she left, I sat on the porch for another hour, reading her letter again. It was going to cause a sensation when it was published. People would talk about it for months. But it was also going to set the record straight. I went inside, scanned the letter into my computer, and formatted it for publication. Then I wrote a brief editor's note explaining why the Herald was printing it. In the interest of truth and transparency, we are publishing this letter from a community member who wishes to correct false statements she made previously. We believe that accountability and honesty are fundamental to a healthy community, and we respect Mrs. Marrow's courage in taking responsibility for her actions. The letter would run in Thursday's edition, right on the front page. I had a feeling it was going to be our best-selling issue in years. 3 months later, I was having coffee at Murphy's when Jennifer Walsh approached my table. Mr. Marrow, I'm Jennifer Walsh. I wanted to thank you. For what? For stopping Evan before he could hurt anyone else. I heard about what happened with your wife, and I wanted you to know that your actions probably saved other women from going through what I went through. I was just protecting myself. Maybe, but you also protected the rest of us. She handed me a business card. I'm starting a support group for women who've been victimized by men like Evan. If you ever hear of anyone who needs help, please give them my number. After she left, I sat in the diner for a long time, thinking about consequences and redemption and the strange ways that life sometimes works out. The truth had indeed come out, just like Mrs. Chen's husband had predicted, and for the first time in months, I felt like everything was exactly as it should be.